Hello, welcome to another Django screencast. When I'm developing my projects, I like to keep in mind that the applications that I'm developing within that project should be portable. In other words, I want to develop that application in such a way that I could use it in other projects down the road. One thing you run into sometimes is that applications might have application-specific settings. And so today what we're going to do is look at how we can have those application-specific settings, but have them in a way that they're portable down the road so that this application can be pluggable in other projects. So here we have our delicious link style application that we've been working with. And on this application, I have a paginator for the main list screen. So currently this paginator displays 3 items. And we can see where that's implemented over here in our editor, where I have paginate by set to 3. And so that's useful. But if I'm using this delicious link style application in another project, I may want to paginate by 5 items or something other than that. And so one thing we can do is create an application specific setting that controls that setting that the paginate by item is set to. So one way that I've seen it done a lot is someone will add something like this from Django.config import settings, and then down here they might have settings.paginate by. And then in the settings file, have something like this, paginate by equals, and let's just set it to 2 for instance, so we can see if it's working. There it goes. So it works. And that works well, but part of the problem is that with a setting like that, you need to tell people, hey, set this setting in your Django.config settings file. So if they don't set that setting, then you're going to have a problem obviously trying to import that. And so you can wrap that in a, in a try block or something like that. But let's do something different. Let's provide a default within our application so that the application itself can be portable. So in order to do that, what I like to do is, let me get rid of this stuff here. What I like to do is create a structure that's similar to the way Django does it. So I'll create a folder here called config, or conf. And of course I need my init.py in there. Cool. I'll create that in there so that it's a module. And then I'm going to create another file. This will just be a blank file. And I'm going to call it settings. Now these are the settings for our application. So the first thing I like to do here is I'm going to write from Django.config import settings. Okay. Now we're going to do something different. What we're going to do is we're going to create a setting called paginate by, and then we're going to use the getAttr syntax function to try to get a specific setting from our settings.py module that's part of our project. So I'm going to name it something a little bit specific to this app so it's clear in our settings.py module what app this applies to. So in this case I'll call it delinquent paginate by. Okay, and then we can provide a default to the getAttr function. And what that does is that will look up that attribute in the settings.py module. If it doesn't exist, then it'll pass back the default. Once we have that set up, then we can go back to our urls.py module, for our application. And we'll just import our application-specific settings. So in this case, we're going to type from delinquent.big import settings. Now note that although this application is part of the Screencast project, typically this application would be moved out and put on the Python path by itself. I have it enclosed in here just for the purpose of making it easy to work with in the screencast. But that's why I'm using this syntax, delinquent.conf import settings, and not the project name, because I want the app to be portable, and I expect that down the road, delinquent itself will be on the Python path. Okay, so you want to keep those things in mind when you're making your apps portable. Now what we're going to do is change this from 3 to settings.paginate_by, which is the setting that we have here in our settings.py module for our application. And finally we have, well, let's just do that actually. Let's just do that. And so in our regular settings, note that we haven't provided any default. So let's go back to our web application, hit refresh. It looks like I forgot to, I spelled settings wrong. So let's go correct that now and come back to this. So there we go. We changed it to settings, and now back to the web app. And hit refresh, and now we have 3 items. If we change that default in our application settings to 2 items, we can see that now we only get 2 items. But now here's where the flexibility comes in. The project that is using that application now has the ability to specify, and you can put this in the documentation somewhere, but they can specify this option, delinquent paginate by, and set it to something like 4, for instance. And now the project settings are overriding the application specific settings. And so in this way, the application can be used. It's not going to break. It doesn't require a certain implementation in your config, in your settings.py module. But the project that's using the application does have the ability to override that setting. Let's make one more change just to show. And go back to 2. And now we have 2 items. So this is a pretty simple tip, but it's a nice way of approaching and making applications more modular so that you can just sort of plug and play these applications in different projects down the road. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time on the next Django Screencast.